All right. Oh, that was a mess. All right. Hi, good evening. Happy Sunday, everyone. I made it. I'm a little late. Had to divert how I was going to do all this since I missed my scheduled time to come to you this evening. Good evening, everybody. I'm Tia Rogers, and we've been having wealth talk, recession proof conversations for the last 66 days as of today, right? So, just a brief review. I don't want to keep you long, but I wanted to keep the commitment and come as I had a great day with the family today. So, it's great laughs and times. I hope you guys enjoyed your weekend too as we prepare to get into our week. I'm not sure if you'll be able to read the board because the writing is kind of light, but I'm going to do my best to review. This over the past few weeks, I've been reading to you out of Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson, and I've been sharing with you also the 12 Universal Laws of Success by Herbert Harris. And tonight I have a new book I want to introduce into the mix of what we're going as we're trying to grasp some understanding, get an idea as we are moving forward, developing our plans and planning our work and working our plans, right? So, um, quick review of the week that we've been talking about. We've been talking about Black America and the national plan, how to strategize to move into political and economic competitiveness. We've discussed what challenges we face. We talked about race, racism, and wealth with, without a finish line. We talked about monopolized society and shared monopoly. Um, we talked about empowerment and the keys to empowerment culture and group vision. We talked about ethno aggregation and vertical integration, the positives and the negatives, right? We talked about pulling group resources together, and we talked about organizing for empowerment and building Kim, Kim, with I can't even my own writing, competitive communities. We talked about building competitive communities versus neighborhoods, right? So it's a lot of information to kind of all take in at one time. That's why I asked you guys to feel free to please go to powernomics.com, purchase the book Powernomics. There's a whole three-book series that it goes, so you'll probably see it all in the package. It's best to buy it that way, and then that way you can go from one book to the next book to the next book, and they all kind of piggyback off each other. Um, in efforts of talking about building and empowerment and how we are building and being uh, competitive politically and economically as a people. Um, I thought that it would be nice to share with you this evening some readings from, going to be reading from John Maxwell's The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth this evening. So this chapter is a little long, so we might have to break it up a little bit into tonight until tomorrow. But I'll begin. I don't want to hold up everyone. I'm already late. So the law of intention, it states growth doesn't just happen. Life is now in session. Are you present? Do you have a plan for your personal growth? Kurt Camperin, the man who asked me the question, waited patiently for my response. It was a question that would change my life. I fumbled for answers. I listed my accomplishments from the previous 3 years. I talked about how hard I worked. I outlined my goals. I explained the things I was doing to reach more people. All of my answers were based on activity, not on improving. Finally, I had to admit it. I had no plan to become better. It was something I had never considered before, and it exposed a major flaw in my approach to work and success. When I started my career, I was intentional about working, reaching my goals, and being successful. I had a strategy. Hard work, I hoped that would get me where I wanted to go. But working hard doesn't guarantee success, and hope isn't a strategy. How do you get better at what you do? How do you improve your relationships? How do you gain more and depth and wisdom as a person? How do you gain insight? How do you overcome obstacles? Work harder, work longer, wait for things to get better. That conversation happened over lunch at a Holiday Inn restaurant in 1972. At that time, at the time, I had just been given the opportunity to move up in my career. I had been offered the best church in my denomination. Think about being offered the top leadership job in the premier location in your company. That's what it was for me. The problem was that I was 24 years old and I was way over my head, and I knew that if I didn't rise to the occasion, I would fail spectacularly. Kurt was a salesman who was selling a growth kit, a year long plan with materials designed to help a person grow. He slid the brochure across the table to me. It cost $799, which was nearly a month's salary for me at the time. My mind was racing, and I drove home. I had believed that success would come to anyone who poured himself into his career. Kurt helped me to realize that the key was personal growth. It occurred to me that if you focus on your goals, you may hit goals, but that doesn't guarantee growth. If you focus on growth, you will grow and always hit goals. As I drove, a quote from James Allen, "As a man thinketh," came to mind. I had first read that book in seventh grade and had subsequently read it nearly a dozen times. Allen wrote, "People are anxious to improve their circumstances, but are unwilling to improve themselves. They therefore remain bound." I couldn't afford what Kurt was offering, yet in my heart I knew that he had uncovered the key to the ability to meet my next leadership challenge and go to the higher levels in my career. I could see the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be, where I needed to be. It was a growth gap, and I needed to figure out how to bridge it. Growth gaps. If you have dreams, goals, or aspirations, you need to grow to achieve them. But if you're like I was, and if you're like most people, you have one or more mistaken beliefs that create a gap that keeps you from growing and reaching your potential. Take a look at the following 8 misconceptions about growth that may be holding you back from being as intentional as you need to be. The assumption gap. I assume that I will automatically grow. When we are children, our bodies grow automatically. A year goes by and we become taller, stronger, more capable of doing things and facing new challenges. I think many people carry it into adulthood, a subconscious belief that mental, spiritual, and emotional growth follows a similar pattern. Time goes by and we simply get better. We're like Charlie Brown in Charles Schwartz Peanuts comic strip, who once said, "I think I've discovered the secret of life. You just hang around until you get used to it." The potential is that we don't improve by simply living. We have to be intentional about it. Musician Bruce Springsteen commented, "A time comes when you need to stop waiting for the man you want to become and start being the man you want to be." No one improves by accident. Personal growth doesn't just happen on its own. And once you're done with your formal education, you must take complete ownership of the growth process because nobody else will do it for you. As Michael D. Montaigne observed, no wind favors him who has no destined port. If you want your life to improve, you must improve yourself. You must make a tangible target. Two, the knowledge gap. I don't know how to grow. After my meeting with Kurt Camperin, I talked to everybody I knew and asked the same question Kurt had asked me. Do you have a growth plan? I was hoping that somebody had figured this out and I could simply learn from him. Not one person said yes. Nobody in my world had a plan for growing and improving. I didn't know how to grow, and neither did they. Designers, artists, and consultant, designer, artist, and consultant, Loretta Staples says, if you are clear with what you want, the world responds with clarity. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to grow into the new job I was taking. I wanted to become someone capable of accomplishing the big goals I had set for myself. I just needed a way to do that. Many people learn from the school of hard knocks. Difficult experiences teach them lessons the hard way, and they change sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. The lessons are random and difficult. It's much better to plan your growth intentionally. You decide where you need or want to grow. You choose what you will learn, and you follow through with discipline, going at the pace you set. After I met with Kurt and came to realize that I didn't know anyone else who could not help me, my wife Margaret and I talked about ways we could scrimp, save, and go without and put aside $799. You have to remember that this was before credit cards. I skipped lunches. We canceled the vacation we had planned to take. We made do. It took us 6 months, but finally we did it. You can't imagine my excitement as I opened up the growth kit and started to flip through the 5 areas it covered: attitude, goals, discipline, measurement, and consistency. I look back now and I can see how basic those things were that the kit taught me, but that's what I needed. Learning those lessons opened the door of personal growth. It cracked for me, and through that crack, I began to see growth opportunities everywhere. My world began to open up. I accomplished more, I learned more, I was able to lead and help others more. Other opportunities began to present themselves. My world expanded outside of my faith. The decision to grow has impacted my life more than any other. The timing growth. It's not the right time to begin. When I was a kid, one of my father's favorite riddles to us went like this: 5 frogs are sitting on a log. Four decided to jump off. How many are left? The first time he asked me, I answered one. No, he responded. Five. Why? Because there's a difference between deciding and doing. That was a point that was a point that Dad often drove home with us. American American po- politician Frank Clark said, "What great accomplishments we'd have in the world if everybody had done what they intended to do." Most people don't act as quickly as they should on things. They find themselves subject to the law of diminishing intent, which says the longer you wait to do something you should do now, the greater the odds that you will never actually do it. Back when I was deciding whether to try to buy the first personal growth plan, in a way I was lucky because I knew I was headed to a job where I would be in way over my head. I would be challenged beyond anything I'd ever done before. I would be under a microscope with high expectations, some for me to succeed, some for me to fail, from everyone who knew me. And I knew that if I didn't get better as a leader, I would fail. That prompted me to act as quickly as I could. You may be under similar personal or professional pressure right now. If you are, you're probably anxious to start growing and developing. But what if you're not? Whether you feel prompted to or not, now is the time to start growing. Author and professional professor Leo Boscali asserted, life lived for tomorrow will always be a day away from being realized. The reality is that you will never get much done unless you go ahead and do it before you are ready. If you're not already intentionally growing, you need to get started today. If you don't, you may reach some goals which you can celebrate, but you will eventually plateau. Once you start growing intentionally, you can keep growing and keep asking what's next. The, mis- the mistake gap. I'm afraid of making mistakes. Growing can be messy business. It means admitting you don't have the answers. It requires making mistakes. It can make you look foolish. Most people don't enjoy that, but that is the price of admission if you want to improve. Years ago, I read a quote by Robert H. Schuller who said, "What would you attempt to do if you knew you wouldn't fail?" Those words encouraged me to try things that I believed were beyond my capabilities. They also inspired me to write the book, Failing Forward. When I received the first copy of the book from the publisher, I immediately wrote a thank you in it to Dr. Schuller and signed it to him. And I made a trip to Garden Grove so I could present it to him and thank him for the positive influence he had on my life. A photographer that was taken of a photograph, sorry, a photograph that was taken of us on that day sits on the desk in my office as a reminder of his investment in me. If you want to grow, you need to get over any fear you may have of making mistakes. As author and professor Warren Beans as- asserts, a mistake is simply another way of doing things. To become intentional about growing, expect to make mistakes every day and welcome them as a sign that you are moving in the right direction. The perfection gap. I have to find the best way before I start. Similar to similar to the mistake gap is Similar to the mistake gap is the perfection gap. The desire to find the best way to get started in a growth plan. When Kurt presented me with the idea of a growth plan, I went looking for the best way, but when I discovered what I discovered is that I had it backwards. I had to get started if I wanted to find the best way. It's similar to driving an unfamiliar road at night. Ideally, you like to be able to see your whole route before you begin, but you see it progressively. As you move forward, a little more of the road is revealed to you. If you want to see more of the way, then get moving. The inspiration gap. I don't feel like I'm I don't feel like doing it. Many years ago I was stuck in a doctor's waiting room for a really long time. So long in fact that I had completed all the work I brought with me for the wait and was looking for something productive to do. I flipped through a medical journal and found the following text, which has become one of my favorite examples of the inertia of motivation. And by the way, this was before Nike coined the phrase, just do it. We hear it almost every day. Sigh, sigh, sigh. I just can't get myself motivated to lose weight, test my blood sugar, etc. And we hear an equal number of sighs from di- diabetic diabetes educators who can't get their patients motivated to do the right things for their diabetes and health. We have news for you. Motivation is not going to strike you like lightning, and motivation is not something that someone else, nurse, doctor, family member, can bestow or force on you. The whole idea of motivation is a trap. Forget motivation, just do it. Um, and we're going to stop right there, and tomorrow we'll go back into it um, as the time is going down. So be intentional with your growth and development plan as you are becoming aware of who you are, whose you are, identifying where you are presently and where you would like to go. We see it takes commitment, it takes dedication. You may not always feel excited and are motivated to do so, but the idea that every step that you take is moving you closer to where you want to go um, is the key. So I want to thank you all this evening for allowing me to come to you late this evening and disrupt you all a little unorthodox like it normally is, but I'm here nonetheless. So I'm here to let you guys know Sunday is the beginning of the week. We're going into Monday. Hope that you are blessed to wake up tomorrow morning and we'll come together and have motivation time in the morning at Tammy's.shop as we do every morning as we are counting down this 88 days into 2023. Like I said, 90 days, you can begin to see changes in your life, even if it's just in you. And that's a great place to start. Start with you. Do what needs to be done for you from the inside, and it will come on the outside. Good luck, everybody, at achieving your goals. Have a blessed, amazing week, and I'll talk to you later. See you guys later. Bye bye.